I want to address a couple of things that I don't believe that I got addressed in the video about how Yeshua or Jesus fulfilled the law. Um, One is, if you look at Matthew 5 verse 17, it says that, "Do not think that I came to abolish the law or the prophets, but to fulfill." And one of the things we should look at there is the law and the prophets. The prophets foretold of his coming, his first coming and his second coming. When he was reading Isaiah, he stopped and said, "This has been fulfilled today." And when it comes to the sacrificial system, every bit of it points to Yeshua, to Jesus. Because the animal taking the sin and being burned on the altar, either just the entrails, certain parts of the entrails being burned, or the whole animal being burned. Ultimately, other parts of the animal were taken outside and burned outside the camp, outside the city walls. And we really need to see that the Torah, with all the animal sacrifice, all points to Jesus, Yeshua. If you read Leviticus, about the chapter 1 through say 6 or 7, it talks about the sacrifices and what the priestly portion was, but I think we should not lose the point that the sin was put upon it, it was put upon the fire, and what I believe really needs to be shown in that is that God is a consuming fire. He cannot be in the presence of sin. Those sacrifices being burned, like they were, having transferred the sin to the sacrifice, and then the sacrifice being burned, I believe is a lesson to us about sin, the price of sin, the cost of sin, not only in the animal dying, but the fact that the animal was burned up because it took the sin upon it. God cannot be in the presence of sin. And if we have sin, we've got a problem. And yes, Yeshua is the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that takes away the sin of the world. I mean, you look at several places where he healed people. Those are there, I believe, to show that he is the holy flesh. He is the sanctified sacrifice. Because you read in Leviticus 6, if you read in Leviticus 6, verse Leviticus 6, verse 27, "Anyone who touches its flesh will become consecrated, and when any of its blood splashes on a garment in a holy place, you shall wash it with what it was splashed on." And it goes and talks about what vessels should be destroyed and which ones can be washed out. Which I think is instructive to us about, just like how Torah talks about, well, if a seed touches something unclean but there's no water or whatever, that it is still okay. But if there's moisture or water and it touches something unclean, you are not to use that seed. It's all about separating the holy and the profane. But I think we need to realize that Yeshua is the sacrifice. When it comes to the atonement, he was the sacrificial lamb. And then the other lamb, that where the sins were put upon it, and it was set free in the wilderness, or driven out into the wilderness. It's symbolic of how Yeshua takes away our sin, how he became our atonement. And we just need to look at all these things. That's why this book is so important from cover to cover. If you don't read the front of the book, the back of the book doesn't make sense. If you read the front of the book, the back of the book makes a whole lot more sense. You understand that Yeshua, that like Hebrews talks about, God's not happy with the blood of bulls and goats. But Yeshua came to be the ultimate sacrifice. And also part of the covenant, part of the renewed covenant, is that, like Jeremiah 31 through 34, 33 talks about, I will put the law upon their hearts. And, that's part of having a heart transplant. But the heart is the issue, and we really need to understand this is all about heart. This isn't about just this Torah. The Bible is about a lifestyle. It's not about something we do just to go to church or whatever. When you live the lifestyle, that's where you see the power. That's where you see the anointing on your life. Not in, oh, well, I went to church and I spent an hour, 2 hours there. Because there are some churches where they spend an hour, hour and a half in liturgy, order of service, singing and reading the Torah and doing different things, or reading certain parts of the Bible or whatever, having readings and doing these different things, and only spend about half an hour or 45 minutes on a sermon. And then there are those that spend maybe half an hour to 45 minutes on what is supposedly called worship, quote unquote, and yet they spend an hour, hour and a half on teaching. And you can see a difference. If you look at the congregations, you can see a difference. Those that know and choose to live this word, that's the difference. This is a lifestyle. This isn't just going to church.